Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, depending on where in the world you are joining me from. This is 2026, the Crypto and Cognac Podcast Show, Season 7, Episode 10. Happy New Year, guys. I am Illuminati. And I'm so happy to be with you guys another year deciphering and discussing this crazy cryptic world of cryptocurrency. And as always, if I'm here, Stevie here, Henny here, you know what I mean? And of course, we have to pour a toast, pour a drink. Cheers to 2026. How have you guys been? So, welcome back to the podcast. We had a crazy 2 weeks because for the first time, I think ever, so I've been doing this podcast since 2021, June 2021, and in the last 4.5, almost 5 years, this is the first time that we've had consecutive weeks where the podcast date falls on a public holiday that is aligned specifically with family and celebration. So I took a little break because the important things are the important things. But we are back. We are in 2026. And you know what they say, before you move forward, before you know where you're going, you got to take a look back at where you've been. So today, the intention is to take a look back at 2025 in crypto, how it started, how it ended, and how this year, 2026, has started. You know, well, before I jump into that, right? Because recently, here in Trinidad and Tobago, they have passed the Virtual Assets and Virtual Asset Service Provider bill. Well, I guess it's a law now. And that makes it even more necessary than usual for me to do some housekeeping, to introduce you guys to the house rules. I, Illuminati, I'm not a financial advisor. This, the Crypto and Cognac podcast, is not a financial advisory podcast, right? The same way we have our Hennessy, it's the same way we have our crypto conversations. It's all about the ICE rule. And I know Stephen has already told you in the chat, but for those not in the chat, information, conversation, education, those are the pillars on which we stand. Always do your own research. Always drink, drive, and degen responsibly with a glass of Hennessy, right? So, getting back to 2025. So I didn't even realize, right? Because sometimes you're so close to the thing. You know, you're in the group chats, you're talking about it, people asking you questions, you're seeing things happening real time. And 2025 was a crazy year. But in looking back, 2025 was an absolutely insanely bullish year for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Now, the price action didn't really reflect that bullish activity. It didn't really deliver. But I have my own thoughts on that because a lot of people stay playing in the casino with leverage. And I think that kept us from really being able to the moon. But in looking back, the reality is that 2025 was actually a really bullish year in terms of sentiment, in terms of activity for the crypto space. So we started off in January, hot and sweaty, right? Ross Ulbricht, who is one of the founders of Silk Road and one of the big advocates for cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and all of that, he was pardoned by President Donald Trump. And, it felt like we were coming around where, in terms of Bitcoin becoming mainstream, Bitcoin being embraced by government, Bitcoin being embraced especially by Western governments. So we started off in January with that. By March, President Trump had signed an executive order for the US to form their own strategic Bitcoin reserve, one of his campaign promises. He executed on that and that was March 6th. By March 11th, the House bill was introduced in the US. Senator Cynthia Lummis, she put forward a proposal aimed at permanently enshrining President Trump's strategic Bitcoin reserve and encouraging or directing the Treasury to acquire up to 1 million BTC over the next 5 years. 1 year later, I don't know how much they have actually bought, but that's significant because that would mean that the US government will own just under 20%, just under 5%, sorry, of the entire Bitcoin supply, right? So that's March. We in March, everything pumping, strategic Bitcoin reserve. By May, right, Bitcoin conference, Vice President Vance was the first sitting Vice President of the United States of America to speak at Bitcoin convention, right? And openly disclosing that he personally held Bitcoin as part of his asset portfolio. So everything looking up, President Trump with us, Vice President Vance with us, Cynthia been with us, everything pumping, right? Bitcoin conference 2025 actually broke an attendance record, and we've been out here for a minute, right? So by July, the Genius Act was signed into law, creating a lot of legislative clarity around Bitcoin and cryptocurrency for the US market. Something that we expected and then ultimately did usher in a lot of institutional entities into declaring their support, their interest, their operational focus around providing Bitcoin custody services to their clientele. By August, Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, who have been buying nonstop over the years, they actually reached the milestone of owning 3% of the total Bitcoin supply, making them a significant holder and significant player in the Bitcoin space. Now, you guys know I've said this before. It is the one major black swan event that I am worried about. If something happens to MicroStrategy, if something happens to Michael Saylor, and they are forced to sell their Bitcoin, what is going to happen to the price action? Do we have this demand in the markets on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, to absorb that kind of liquidity coming back into the market? I don't know, what that kind of sell pressure, I should say. August, Bitcoin Asia, which was in Hong Kong, had record attendance, over 20,000 attendees. So we were still very, very excited. And by October, Bitcoin had hit a new all-time high, 126,000 BTC, dollars per BTC. And a lot of people, myself included, thought we would make it all the way up to 160, 167. That's the number I was looking at. Everybody was excited. And then, boom, we didn't go nowhere. I mean, by November, we had states like Texas buying Bitcoin, $10 million in Bitcoin. And it all year it looked like things were gonna get very, very bashy. And it just never happened. But again, I think it's because a lot of people have been playing in the markets with leverage, and those people who have been in this market for a long time, who have accumulated the BTC and the positions and can afford to manipulate this market, they saw amazing opportunities to make a killing by going in the opposite direction of the sentiment of those people using leverage. And a lot of people lost their shit in the casino of leverage trading. And obviously, if a lot of people lose their shit, somebody is scooping up all that torn tailoring on the floor, right? So, and I think that's what kept the markets from booming, because when leverage gets liquidated, the positions, it just forces things down, down, down. But through it all, we saw the fear greed index down at 10% score and all these kind of crazy things, and we still above 90,000 as of today. Where are we at? I think we might be exactly, let me see. According to CoinGecko, we are at 91,224,000 as at today. Pretty much the same place we were this time last year. So we've not really moved anywhere significantly. We're standing in place. Yes, would have gone down, would have gone up over the course of the year. But January to January, we kind of standing in the same place. And though I think this year, despite the narratives not being as strong, I think this year we might see the price action. Last year, we also said goodbye to the 4-year cycle. It was the first time that a halving year of BTC ended in a red candle, right? Which basically threw the whole idea of a 4-year cycle out the window. A lot of people said because of the new institutional players, um, things are going to be a lot less volatile. It's not going to just be these parabolic moves on Bitcoin, either up or down. So we wait to see what replaces that 4-year cycle. Are we going to still see the 4-year cycle be maintained in the altcoin space? In 2025, we didn't see much happen for altcoins. We didn't see an alt cycle. We didn't see, we saw a little meme activity early in the year. There were one or two tokens who had amazing runs, but in terms of the whole space, very, very little movement. So is that gonna happen this year? Are we gonna see people get fed up of waiting, holding BTC, and start parlaying some of those gains or losses into major alts, minor alts, small cap? And are we gonna see a late alt season in 2026? I don't know. You gotta stick around and see. But one thing is for sure, and two things for certain. We're gonna be here to talk about it, right? Me, Hennessy, and Stevie G, right? So, looking forward to an amazing year of BTC. Like I said, do your own research. If you want to have the kind of stability in terms of building something that you didn't have and you may not have another opportunity to, what I'm doing, $5 every month, $5 US invested. You never know what's gonna happen, right? $5, $5 here, $5 there, right? Long term. This is not a get rich quick scheme, right? Just be deliberate. And why? Because, like I said, one thing for sure, two things for certain. adoption is inevitable. Yes, Stephen. Yeah? Stephen knows it. Adoption is inevitable. Yeah? So, whether it happened today, whether it happened tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 10 years from now, adoption is inevitable. Yeah? That's my time. Guys, Happy New Year again. Have a blessed one. I wish you all the sats your wallet can carry. All love to you and your family, all your friends. Stay blessed. 2026. Illuminati OUT out. Be blessed, guys.